Oh, shit. We're already recording.
We're back. We're recording now.
Okay, how's your back?
Great. Fucked, mate. Absolutely fucked.
Apart from having a finger up your arse, what was the verdict?
That was it, mate. It's all I went for.
What, just literally like bend over. Oh yeah, you've got a slack arse.
Fall over. I've hurt my knee. All right, bend over. No, mate, honestly, it's fucked. So I've got a bulging disc, and it's pinching the nerves. So one sec, will you shut the fuck up? Shut the door now, you fucking hell. Shut the door. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so the disc is fucking pinching the nerves. So every so often
that's why your legs are small.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. You know what though? Honestly, it could be struggling to connect properly because of the nerves. But funny is, it's probably not that funny. But when I was there yesterday, my dad was fucking there. He'd been admitted to hospital because his fucking legs give way. Same issue, and he's got to have an operation.
Fuck off.
It must be like.
Did he just like the finger up the bum again, or what?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, we've got his dad's
His dad's
as well.
Dad was up for it, yeah. But, if someone says to you, right, put your pants down to your groin area, so I've got access to your groin area, what do you do?
Get your cock out.
Yeah. So Eliza, pants down, cock out. She gets the the thing with the gel on it on my belly to check my bladder. Great.
Yeah, worth the fucking 7-hour wait for the fucking angel.
Fucking 11 hours, mate. Oh,
11 hours.
11 hours, yeah.
I didn't guess you were counting by the sounds of it.
No. So, but
anyway,
honestly, mate, nothing. They just like to ride it out.
Okay, so just be a quick. Fucking hell. Just loads of painkillers.
Yeah, pretty much. But even that, they can't give you opioids either, the shit that actually works, because it's addictive. They have to give you back to the fucking doctor so they can prescribe it. But they're fucking hell. By the time I get in the doctors, I'll rinse the black market for fucking 10 times that.
Yeah. Heroin. Just be on heroin.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. For anyone who doesn't know, this is Tom, by the way. Tom is joining the. Hey.
Tom's here to me.
Top right. I'm up there.
Yeah, so he's going to be joining the coaching team as of 2024. So just thought it'd be great to invite him on the podcast just to chat shit. So
just to talk nonsense, and
which is what we do.
Where's your doctor's care? Because I feel like I need to go.
Warrington. I've got I don't
know
why, but she's giving me a private number. I've been WhatsApping her all day.
Yeah, it wasn't a doctor's, it was like adult works or something.
Yeah, just
like, I've got a little back. Can you finger me? Fuck's sake. Topic today is, what do we say? Best off-season cycles.
Yeah.
Off-season, or do you just you just listed loads of drugs in general?
That was an order. That was nothing to do with.
Oh, okay.
Fuck's sake, bro. I think if we actually stick to off-season, because obviously there's going to be different drugs that you use pre-contest. There's going to be different drugs, or the amounts of drugs that you'll use on obviously an off-season to a pre-contest. So let's just do the juicy shit off-season. Everybody's getting fat. It's fucking heading into fucking December, January, February, so on. And then once we're into the bulk of heading into preps, then we'll probably cover the prep cycles then. So first off, how do you settle, or what's the first drug that you would like use in a cycle for anyone?
Testosterone, always the base, man. That's what makes you a man.
That and having a penis. There's two.
They're the two things that confirm you're a man.
Yeah.
That's always the base, isn't it? It's always the base, because that's what's going to repair your tissue to allow you to be able to train again and again with more intensity and run that cycle.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, so we've got that androgen receptor that we need to stimulate. like you say, that's the first thing that's going to obviously create us being a man, going to be getting strength up, going to obviously pushing that sort of muscle protein synthesis. What dosages? Let's talk personal preference, just so then it gives it some context.
Okay.
What dosages have you ran it at, Key? And what have you found is the best?
So, back in the day,
Back in my day,
back in the day, before anyone was really using the likes of Primo and Mastron in an off season, everyone was using like Decker and whatnot. I'd be pushing test high, but I'd have all them shitty side effects and have to run an AI at the same time. So I'd be pushing up towards a gram of test. But more recently now, like my sweet spot's about 750.
Yeah, I used to run a gram of test, and I think in the off season, it doesn't warrant having a gram of test in there, just as you said and touched on the negative side effects. You're talking like high blood pressure, you're talking water retention, and that's only going to negatively impact health markers. It's only going to negatively impact your performance in the gym. Like we know ourselves, when your fucking water retention is high and your blood pressure is high, and even your toxicity, your ability to get in and out of machines, your ability to perform any fucking sort of bent over row, deadlift movement, anything like that, just goes out the window, doesn't it?
And there's only so many fucking videos on Pornhub you can watch.
But until you go into hospital to get fingers up your arse, you kinky twat.
that's where I'm at now.
I think, Tom, you've actually done it a little bit different, haven't you? You've ran a lower dose of testosterone. Haven't you? How did you find it?
I think going back to when I first competed over like 10 years ago, I think that the amount for me, I think I touched around 500 milligram, which is obviously nowhere near a gram, but I think the sweet spot for me is around, if I'm running around 250, it will put me on the scale of in animals about 29, which is just the top end of just base health, really. Yeah, just sound. So I think anywhere between 450 and 500 works for me. Obviously, I'm away quite substantially a lot less than both of you two, sitting around the 13 stone mark now. So I think around the 450 mark for me would be a great spot to go again in this off season anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm always like. Around 500, 600 for me. Again, Kieran's heavier and bigger than me, so it's that 500, 600 mark is where I don't really need to worry about, again, the side effects, and we don't have to start because we want estrogen, but we don't want fucking estrogen to be through the fucking roof.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So realistically, like I'd say for anyone, obviously, this is talking about advanced users who, like we just touched on, is 10 years of fucking competitive bodybuilding. We're not talking about you starting on your first cycle when you're doing a fucking 500, 750 mega test. But I feel like anyone who was structuring an off season when they're a competitive bodybuilder, I do really feel like start at 500, and then you can. And it's the same as if you was prepping. You can maneuver that up over time if training performance is not going where you want it to, or fullness isn't where you want it to. You can bump that up if needs be, or if it warrants it. But I do feel like for that first drug that you put in, like 500 to 750 is the sweet spot.
I agree.
The second thing that I tend to implement, again, because you just touched on it, Kieran, like instead of trying to run an AI straight off the bat, I'll use a DHT, which is also like Primo, Masteron, and that'll make the next like section of the cycle. And that reason being is because it doesn't aromatize, it obviously doesn't convert to estrogen, and that's going to help obviously bring down estrogen also. The thing that I found for me personally and for my clients and our clients is doing half and half between Primo and Masteron, and not putting all the eggs in one basket, down to just the fact of the accessibility of real Primo, innit?
Yeah, because in all honesty, mate, right, they're very, very, very similar.
Yeah,
there's not much difference in the two at all. So if you are going to run them, there's no benefit to one higher than the other.
With obviously mass being, you get a lot of more milligrams per mil as well. I tend to find my injections are a lot less frequent, or obviously not as much in the barrel anyway.
Yeah,
you can still get mass prop as well, same as like your 100 on Primo. But yeah, in off season, if I'm using Primo Masteron, I'll be doing Masteron M, which is like what 200 milligrams. Injection.
It's half the amount of mil in it. When quite a lot of injections, I think as well, running the risk of getting a bad injection. If you're having to say you're doing a lot of say you did it all in primo and you're running. So let's just touch on what amount of DHT would you run with 600 milligrams of test?
With 600 tests?
Let's say 500 to 700 tests.
If you're talking me personally, up over a gram. I'm pushing up over a gram of a mix of both.
And how are you doing? Are you normally doing that at like a gram of primo, or like say even let's just call it a gram total? Are you doing more primo, a little bit less mast, more mast? A little bit
in all honesty, I've played about with it. I've played about with it because, like you say, whichever one you're feeling good off at the time, I would, if anything, I would use a bit more of that. But for the majority of the time, I would just half it.
Yes.
So if I was doing a gram, I'd do 500, or it might be a case of like Tom just mentioned. If you want to run a gram and you're really fucking pissed off of injecting, and you don't want to run the risk of a bad injection, just top the master up and pull the primo down slightly.
That's
But regardless, I ain't gonna use it less than like 400 primo. I think that's like rock bottom for primo.
Yeah, really. That's what I would say as well with the primo side of things. It's with that drug to have the effect you want it to, it needs to be running up at like 500 mg. I think so,
at least.
100%. And then obviously the rest of it just making up a master run. Tom, have you ran primo and mass together?
Yeah, so I've run it in like the 50-50 scale. So if I was to do an off-season setting of it again, I'd probably do it around the 600 milligrams from both. So about 300 milligrams each. But that'd be where my test would be at like 450 and not touching the 750 mark. Like I'd probably just like similar to what Kieran said, I'd kind of just up it as I go. So like if I was running anywhere near 750, then obviously higher end of towards a gram, so to speak. But with me running around the 450 mark, I'd probably do it around 600 total. It would take me around a gram total course. 1,050.
Another point that as well is you've got to look at what you've used before. You're and again your years of training, how long you've had bodybuilding and so on, you don't need to go in again at like massive amounts of total milligrams. Whereas like say for me, or say like Kieran's really pushing for his pro card now, it's that risk reward. It's like, okay, well, you need to push the boundaries a little bit to eke out a little bit more progress. So you are exactly food wise, training wise, it's gonna have to go up eventually. That's just the way it is.
And I'll be honest, mate, I'm up high right now, right? So I'm on 750 tests, a gram of primo, 600 mass, but still running blood work even whilst on cycle. Blood work's really fucking good, and even at that high dosage, because it's made up mainly from the DHT, I'm having zero aromatization issues. So I'm not having to use any eye, zero issues. Everything feels great.
That's the thing as well, innit? You don't have to be smashing AIs because we'll move on. We'll touch on to that later down the line. So say for example, right, so we've covered the DHT. You're talking that's again, just to summarize that, it's going to control estrogen, it's going to not convert, and it's going to allow us to push the more basis like of the cycle, because again, we can't just keep forever pushing testosterone, because the thing is you're just going to get a negative kickback. And as you just touched on there, Key, even pushing a gram of primo, 600 mass, there's no real negative kickback on your blood work or health markers. So that's the reason why a majority of the cycle in an off season will be made up of that. Again, down to water retention and so on. What would you then move into? What would you add to that?
Well, me personally, I definitely wouldn't be using any orals. I know some people do it in an off season, but for me, it's an absolute fucking no-go.
See, for me, the next thing that I would touch on then, if say, for example, I'd started that and that we've been running that for a good few weeks and we wanted to add something to bring something else about to it, it's like I'm going down. So you've got 3 different receptors. You've got the androgen receptor, DHT, and then you've got the 19-nor receptor. It's like
so basically saying up the trend.
So like you've got 19-nor receptors. You've got MPP is your option, and you've got trenbolone as your option. And people have this big, oh shit, you can't use tren in off season. You really can, but it has to.
And I've used it.
Yeah, but it has to be again independent to the person. some people, like for myself, I don't really get on well with MPP. Mental like side effects of it makes me fucking ringing the Samaritans and fucking trying to kill myself. That's just working with Kieran, to be honest.
Yeah.
Fucking,
working with Kieran and training with Tom. That's it.
Hey?
Working with Kieran and training with Tom.
Yeah, so that'll fucking, or women just in general, just fucking.
Yeah.
That's my issue. I'll be honest. So that's where I'd then be. Obviously, we have I do anyway. You do is have a discussion with clients and say, how do you respond to these drugs? And then get some real feedback off them to be like, right, okay. Personally, I like to start at 100 milligram of MPP or 100 milligram of Tren. I know you're running Tren Ace at the minute, Key. What's your reason for running Tren Ace and not Tren E?
For me personally, I've had a bad episode on Tren E, right? It's not the fact that it was Tren E, the fact that I took way too much, didn't know what I was doing, hormones are well unbalanced. But since then, it's kind of that, that when if you've drank a litre of Bacardi and been sick, you'll never drink it again.
Yeah.
It's one of them, mate. I might, I'll never touch it again. That. Because it's in your system for longer, and if anything happened, I fucking want it out.
This is exactly what I was going to touch on then, is the reason people always say, why MPP and not Deca, or why Tren Ace and not Tren E, is because the same principle is like, if we do get any negative side effects, it's gone, it's out. We fuck it off.
I think what we spoke about in the past, Ryan, with regards to Tren with myself, I think that I ran it in two phases in effect. One, I ran it at the end of prep going back 6 years ago, and I think it was like the last 4 weeks, it just kind of brought me back to a normal level. And I felt it just made me feel a bit more normal. Obviously, when my calories were on their ass and my cardio was way through the ceiling back then, obviously we dieted a bit differently now. But then I've run it in an off-season setting, it just didn't agree with me, Tren. I think the night sweats for me just threw it out of the way. Like, it was horrific.
Was that the only negative side you got?
Off Tren itself, yeah, but I was sweating. I think I was waking up like 9 pounds less than the night before.
Well, and I mean, like, in an off-season, if you're not sleeping in an off-season because of that, then that's a good enough reason to fuck it off.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I was sleeping fine. I was just it was one of them where I'd wake up in the night, go for a week, come back, and I'd like touch the bed and be like,
there's nothing worse. And it's like when it's cold, cold and what you like.
Yeah.
The sheet, the cover. You're like, fuck, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's this. So that for me, I think I ran it for about 2 weeks in an off-season setting on. I think I was on about 5,500 calories, and my head was about this big.
Yeah.
I decided to put it in.
Pretty much similar size as Kieran said.
I'm gonna say similar size to now, but yeah. In an off-season, it just doesn't agree with me.
I think the only time that I'll accept the sheets being that wet is if I've made a squirt, and I'm like, yeah, it's on your. I'm definitely
not from your own bodily fluid.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Job's done. Yeah, I'll lie on that because it's an ego boost. So obviously that's the next protocol. The biggest thing now, which has kind of been like targeted as like never to do, or not never to do, but it's been demonized, has been EQ. If let us touch on our personal experience with an EQ, and if we use it, if we don't use it. So, T, what's your personal opinion on EQ and using it?
I've run it plenty of times and I've had zero issues. It's been great. But I'm also someone I've ran an NPP only cycle at 1 gram, and it was a great cycle with no test.
Just love
to try it out. I used to run Deca with no issues. So like that Deca MPP EQ, it actually works well with me on a personal level. But I know lots of people really struggle with it.
In what sense?
Mentally.
Yeah, like the anxiety side of things.
Yeah, it makes you feel anxious and down. And
But I feel personally it's maybe an external environment or an external situation or at certain periods of your life, and certain, like Tom touched on then, like certain periods you can use Tren at the end of a prep where it's just like, it is what it is, and I feel great off it. And then other times it just sends you cooking. I've had that with EQ.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think a lot of, like, I'll listen to a lot of people, obviously, at the gym will tell me their issues and things like that. And a lot of people's issues with certain compounds aren't necessarily the compounds, it's what's going on in their current life state. Then it's just kind of amplified by these drugs, so to speak. But in reality, they could try them in a completely different setting if they were go on, think happier at home or happier at work or things like that, and they'd have no issues. But I think it just
definitely
highlights the issues massively when they're on, and then they seem to think it is these drugs, so to speak, or hitting the 19 or something like that, or taking Deca or taking something or something. But in reality, it's not. It's that all the eggs kind of aren't lined up in the basket, and there is a lot more issues going on either at home or at work or something like that.
That's what I was saying, Tom. Like, I've had that personally, where I've EQ to the cycles that the American coaches used to give us for prep, to start prep, would be literally 1,000 mega test and literally 600 mega EQ. And that'd be the cycle you'd start on. And I'd be great. It was amazing. And I'd run that all the time. I've touched it probably just after prep, this year. And obviously there'd been a lot going on, family, so on and so on. And I was like panicked. I was like, fucking hell, what the fuck's going on? But it was externally a lot of having Kieran on board, work, fucking trying to make everything fit, my mum not being well, so on, all these things. And I was just like, fucking, I'm anxious as fuck, I don't know what's up with me. And then obviously it was the EQ, but it was actually external factors. On a whole, I feel like using it with hundreds of people for years and years, it works very well, and it's a very useful tool. I don't think there should be any drug that's kind of like, never use that, throw it out the window. I think everything has its place. So I do feel like I'm running EQ now at 200 mg, and I feel fine. Like, so that's what I'm saying. It's all circumstantial, isn't it?
I think everyone needs to realize that any of the drugs is going to exemplify shit, right? So if you're fucking high on test and you've got all this manly shit going on, you might feel like fucking punching someone in the face, but it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're going to go and punch someone in the face, you're going to do it.
The only time that is warranted is if you're on Halo and like 2 weeks out from a prep and you just headbutt someone. Like,
do you know what, though, right? Again, even when you're doing all these other drugs at the end of a show, it's less about the drugs. It's more about the lack of sleep and the lack of fucking food.
100%.
Anyone that's not been sleeping and not eating is going to fucking bite your head off, regardless of drugs.
Yeah, of course.
So, agreed.
I ran Trenace in an off season at about 400 milligrams, and I was fucking. And I'm a bit weird, so I was like headbutting machines. I was like, fucking. Honestly, I was like, yeah, I'll fucking smash you, and I don't give a fuck. And I genuinely didn't give a fuck, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to come off this because I'm just getting a bit weird. But again, it probably just heightens me being a cunt. As we touched on, is AIs. Why, when, what?
When you get bitch tits, you don't want them. Fucking get rid
When you start lactating and you can milk yourself.
Get your Evidex out quick.
What my sort of ideas on this have changed over time. I used to, again, just not going off what I learned from the American coaches, it was heavily on ADEX, like just ADEX in every third day, ADEX in every other day, ADEX every day. But that was a different setup in a cycle. There was no DHTs in there. Gram, as I just said, gram of test, 600 EQ. You're going to eventually need an AI. Now, what I personally feel is we test where your estrogen is at. So a blood test for 30 quid will get back your testosterone levels and your estrogen levels. Let's see where they're at. And that gives us a fucking gauge on where we're at with, in a sense of like, right, if our estrogen gets to this level, we're gonna, or our testosterone gets to this nanomolar, we're gonna start aromatizing. And that's where then I'll start to put in something like aromasin or even maybe tamoxifen, like 20 mg pre-bed. But I'll definitely start off with aromasin.
Yeah, don't use letrozole.
yeah. So yeah, that's the one thing to avoid is like letrozole at all costs. And also, I'd say I don't favor ADEX anymore. I'd use aromasin over ADEX. Yeah, that's I think that's when it's needed. But what people have is this sort of idea of like they're scared of having their estrogen run high. But if you're not getting any negative side effects, that's fine.
It's good. Yeah. It's good. You want it if you're not getting no negative side effects. What I have done though in the past is close to a show. I have, obviously I know it negatively impacts your health, but I've pushed the AIs a bit more just to get drier.
And honestly, it really works. So I've done it where, and I've ran ADEX, letrozole, tamoxifen all at the same time. Again, being told what to do and not why you're doing it, but I just did it. And it definitely brought a harder, drier look. However, in my head, I'm thinking, can we not achieve that with the peak?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sort of does it warrant it?
No, it definitely doesn't. But no, especially not all at the same time.
Yeah. Throw it all in. So like literally, like, what have I got here? Right, fuck it, let's have more. Yeah, but I think
Plus, you probably end up flat as well. Do you know what I mean?
I think you definitely do, and I think sometimes at an amateur level, you can get away with being like in the lower classes, you can get away with being flat. But if say like for you, Keith, you can't, or even like with me when I was doing classic, I can't be flat because it need that pop. It depends on physique, but in a certain people can get away with being flat, and then other people can't. But like I say, in an off-season setting, I just get a blood test done quick, see where your test is at, see where your issues are, and then obviously we know we've got the data there, and we're not just guessing. We're just like, right, yeah, okay, that's our sweet spot for that, and that's the amount of aromacin we need or whatever. As for orals, you touched on that before. You like oral. Can you just take your pants down to your crotch level, please? You would never use orals in an off season.
No, for me, again, everyone's different. So depending what your setup is, I have to eat a shit ton of fucking food to maintain, never mind try and grow. So I've really got to push the boat out if I want to push the weight up. Any orals whatsoever just literally destroys digestion there and then. So it's just not worth it. For that little extra a bit of extra strength gain, which I'm going to get from the cycle anyway.
Yeah. I've done it in two different ways. Well, fucking every different way. Sometimes I've done it and it didn't. Again, I don't advocate having orals in there because it didn't work. But I've done it where I've done oxymethylone by oxys after a prep and tried to then, obviously, because my food was low and thinking, right, I can get away with a couple of weeks here of just doing oxys just to get my levels up. There's really no point. You're just kidding yourself with weight and scale weight, and that's when you get obsessed with that. I've done it at the back end of an off season but as you said then, Kieran, like you just can't eat, and if you can't eat, you can't grow. So
you could probably get away with some injectable Dianabol fucking pre-workout shit.
But again,
like
it's not orals, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's still injection. No. So that's where, like, for me in an off-season setting, when you're on a prep and you dog end a prep and you've got no fucking food, you can eat all the orals you fucking want. But
you fucking need it to retain that tissue 100%.
In an off-season, what an oral is going to bring to the table is nothing, because the more, like, you're going to bring maybe a little bit more drugs, but you've got a corpus amount, not corpus amounts, but you've got a decent level of drugs in there. What is going to make you grow is the training and the food.
But there is some people you see that do 3,000, 3,500 calories and grow like fuck, right?
Yeah.
And they're growing and growing and they can't eat anymore, even at that fucking level. But then the orals take them even further. But they're just anomalies, them people.
And it all comes down to like individual, like each individual, doesn't it? And that's why coaching, you can't just be like, we'll do this. Because I see that a lot with fucking people just writing up a diet plan and writing out a cycle. Like, it's fucking everything has to be done to that person. But for a general like overview of it, yeah, I just take orals out of it. I don't even entertain. Yeah. What about you? Have you ever used orals in off season?
I don't think in off season. No, I think going back again, I had a bit of an experience on D-ball years ago, like a long time ago, where it was just a water retention issue, like horrific. I'm talking like cankles and everything. And then that was in the off season. But again, in prep, yeah, I think Kieran's right in saying that it obviously all just comes down to digestion and things like that. And if it is something that really skews your digestion, then it's 100% a no-no, especially like Kieran's no doubt putting away 6,000-7,000 calories a day now. If something is to go against that, then 100% it's a big no-no.
What you on, bro? Yeah. 7,000?
A meal.
Yeah.
35,000 calories a day, easy work.
You're still slow. Take more orals. Need more orals.
Yeah. Put another in, you'll be sound.
Okay, so go on, Tom, sorry.
And then in prep, no doubt. I mean, especially towards the back end of the prep. I mean, with us, I think we dropped injectables out a week before the show each time. So I think having something in to see it right up to stage is just it's a bit like a mind tick. Like in case it drops out. Because I have been recently abroad, and I think I was on a 10-day holiday. Put everything in before I went, and then I'm pretty sure by day 9 everything had just dropped out of me anyway.
Yeah.
Come back, I felt like utter dog shit in a word. But I think just having something there to take over, especially when the injectables are out, and then
in prep there, them orals to me, you're just maintaining the muscle that you've got. The food's fucking low, the cardio's high. You want to make sure you just keep all that muscle, stay strong in the gym. You might even fucking grow a bit because it is superficial, but in an off season, if you're going to take them, you're taking them for these incredible strength gains. But then if you can't eat, you're literally pissing.
It doesn't matter, does it? Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, that's what I always say. It's like you're going to be trying to push performance in the gym, but if you're not going to eat after the gym or before or whatever, and the amount of calories that you need to put in being a surplus, you're not going to grow. Simple as that. So it doesn't really warrant it. I think what people do is they're almost looking for that next thing and that secret. So it's like, oh well, I'm gonna fucking put some Anavor in. Fuck it, be right. And before you know it, they can't eat and they're never going to grow. So yeah, orals are off the table for me. A big one that I've actually implemented in the last off season that I did, which I found very beneficial, is GH. I think GH is, I hate to say the game changer, but I do feel like. Pardon?
The icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's definitely once you get to a certain level of physique development, it's going to allow you to push your body weight, push training, and push overall muscle mass without having to really push that food fucking quick. You know, where you'd have to just be, that was only your only tool, gear and food. Once you start adding the GH in, and I think that's the big game changer for people when they turn professional or they start making a living from bodybuilding, they can afford a decent amount of GH and they can then push that. So for me, for example, I did 5 IUs, just 5 IUs, and the fullness that I got and the overall like roundness and the body weight that went up from it without even changing food was massive. Like I know Tom, like Tom's quite good. You just started taking, if you know what I'm saying, you just started taking.
Yeah.
And how have you found that?
To be honest, I could again, it was another thing. Like when I went on holiday, I can instantly tell when I'm not on it. I think the fullness is just a lot better, and I think it's just another way of. It's just another pathway, isn't it? Like you mentioned, without battering, without overdoing gear and things like that, and it just opens a complete new pathway. And I think for me, it's just fullness. Like I can instantly tell when it's counterfeit, so to speak, as well.
Yeah.
Because I just don't get the pot. I just don't get full. It just misses something. I can just tell when I'm not on it. And like you say, at the moment, it's 2 IUs in the morning, 2 IUs pre-bed. And I think it makes a massive difference.
And even running, like I noticed it as well because I've run it at high dosages. Like me and Kieran, honest, we've run it at 10 IU just to see. And the fullness is too much. It's like you've fucking I can't even move. I'm like a T-Rex. So then it's
like sign into a gym and you can't write your name when you're trying to sign in.
Yeah, your hand like clients like why did I text me back? Like I can't fucking hold my phone. But yeah, it's I do feel like for me, if you're not at the level where you're going to be again making a living from bodybuilding, each their own. But in a sense, if you cannot run it consistently or afford to run it consistently, growth hormone for 12 months straight, then I don't think it has it. Or maybe just a prep. You could probably run it in a prep because that's where I feel as well. Let's not keep going on about prep. Fuck that off. I think running it for a significant amount of time at the dosage that you need, you have to be able to afford it. It can't be just in and out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't run it until you're fucking ready to run it.
Yeah.
Like, don't play that card too soon.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what I always say to everybody. Like, I turned pro without it because I just didn't. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's not that. But then it gives you another pathway, as Tom touched on then. What a lot of people don't understand with when we're setting up a cycle is they're going to look at it and go, oh, fucking hell, like, there's loads of drugs on here. They've got them on loads of drugs. But what they don't realize is we're just hitting every pathway and hitting it enough just to not have too many negative side effects. So, for example, you could do, oh, fuck it, I'm going to do a gram a test. Or you could do 500 test, 400 primo, and a little bit of MPP. And that's still a gram. It's a gram total, but we're not overly doing one pathway. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something that people don't understand, because he's only on test, but he's on a fucking gram and a half a test. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they also they talk about mil and not milligram. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, fucking yeah.
Oh my god, you're doing 10 mil of test what? 10 mil? I'm only doing fucking 4 mil of test 400.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Same fucking thing, innit? But yeah, I think GH definitely in an off-season setting. Not I personally, maybe 6 to 8 IUs is the sweet spot. I think
that's a really good spot, yeah.
Yeah. Again, if you're first starting out, like Tom's a great example, like 4's perfect. As your body weight, it's a tool that we can slowly introduce if we don't want to bump food up, or if appetite's on its ass. It's like, well, we'll just put another IU of GH in it per day, and it'll bring that about. That leads us nicely into the holy grail of fucking growing muscle.
There it comes.
Fucking, have you heard about that fucking insulin? Everyone like, whoa. This is what people are fucking. I'll even mention it because you'll watch this. Brandon, we went on the team meet, and Brandon was like, I'll never touch that insulin. And I said, why? Well, it's bad for you. You could die. And like, Jesus, here it goes.
No.
So people have this notion where insulin's going to make you massive. Insulin's the reason everybody's growing. Insulin's the reason that someone's dead. Like, it's this whole like taboo subject. But in an off-season setting, why do we use insulin? What insulins do we use? And so on. Take it away, Kieran.
Well, go on, Kieran.
Check your blood sugar, yeah. And if it's running too high, you're obviously not utilizing all the carbohydrates that you're having, because obviously you need to push carbs really fucking high to grow, or most people do in an off-season setting. And then I know that you like to favor like a basal insulin, like a long-acting one, what you take first thing in the morning, which I've done plenty of times as well. But then the setup is usually a fast-acting one pre and post-workout, which would be like Nova Rapid.
Yeah, so that's where like this is. Again, it all comes down to glucose management. So blood glucose management and our ability to partition the nutrients with what we're eating. So if we are eating a copious amounts of carbohydrates, which we will be doing in an off season, so you don't put your carbohydrates to your insulin. You eat for your needs, and you get to say, let's just hypothetically say 600-700 grams of carbohydrates. And we start to lose the pumps, or we start to feel like we're fucking getting a bit soft. Test our blood glucose from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and watch this is what people don't understand. They're like, oh, blood glucose is not needed. It is. Fucking data, collect it and look at, obviously, is that trending up? If that number starts to trend up over a week, 2-week period, our insulin sensitivity, especially with GH, is dropping. So our ability to utilize them carbohydrates is less. So then what we're going to do is we're going to basically put in a tool. Again, it's just another tool. It's not the secret. It's not the holy grail. To be able to manage them glucose, so override our own pancreas with a basal insulin. Say, let's hypothetically say start on 10 IUs in the morning. And that's the other thing as well, people don't understand. If you're running 10 IUs, it's not the same as 10 IUs Nova. It's like you need more of Lantus. You run up to 30, 50 IUs of Lantus to bring your blood glucose down.
Because of the spike. So if it's Lantus, it's 24 hours, no spike, yeah?
No spike. So it just
Nova Rapid, what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes is going to be there. So the thing is like using that Lantus allows us then to be primed and ready to eat carbohydrates and take them on. What a lot of people make, like we say, people make a mistake is they'll put the carbohydrates, they'll go, I want to start insulin. Right, I'm going to whack my carbohydrates up and start insulin. You're just going to get fat.
Yeah. That's what makes you fat. That's why people say you're going to get fucking massive off insulin. No, you should actually improve your body composition. Because now, rather than having all this fucking glucose floating around, you're going to be utilizing it.
Yeah,
which you should get better pumps.
Yeah,
and you should be. You can carb up on using insulin if you do it right.
I ran insulin last prep. I ran insulin all the way through prep until I got I still ran Nova Rapid pre and post at 5 IUs until about 2 weeks out, because I could warrant having, say, I was on 350 gram of carbs, and you're exactly the same. You'll probably diet on 500, so you can warrant having 50 gram of carbs pre, intra, post, 150 gram of carbs, and then obviously utilize that insulin to then push them carbohydrates. So the Nova Rapid is going to be pushing the carbohydrates whilst we're training. It's going to be shuttling everything that we're eating, aminos, so pre-digested aminos, carbohydrates, creatine into the muscle to then obviously start the recovery process before we've even finished training. And that's why people utilize the insulin around the training window. And that's what it is. That's all. It's not a secret. It's just another tool to use to be able to manage glucose, isn't it?
It's the same as what a lot of people who are naturally using when they're using a GDA, a glucose disposal agent. It does the same fucking job.
It's exactly the
just
same.
Better.
Let's talk from, obviously I've used insulin for years. So Tom, you've just started, haven't you, using insulin?
Yeah, so we're roughly, I think now we're in, what do you say, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Again, just hitting another pathway. But again, I think the fullness you gain on that's just massive. It's especially, I think we were starting on originally, we went into growth hormone. Then I think it was 2 weeks after that we introduced insulin, and it was like
we took your blood glucose, didn't we?
Yeah. So we did the blood glucose first. We found it was climbing up. We found there was a trend coming in, going upwards. So then it was implemented, but the actual fullness we got off it was nuts. Like, it's something I've never felt that full on training. Obviously, we've partitioned it where we'll take fast-acting insulin on our pull days, on our back days, because that's something I need to massively improve. And again, I find during the sessions, especially, like I say, the fullness is just something else. And yeah, I really, again, hitting the pathway instead of overloading on other things again. It's just a massive tool.
That's what I like. So the reason for example, like you do it on your leg days, don't you, Keith? And the reason that our program, say on Tom's back days, is because we're going to have a higher amount of carbohydrates post-workout. One, because back's a bit muscle, but two, we're trying to bring that body part up. So then we can allow to be, then we're just running 3 IUs of Nova post-workout for Tom. And then to utilize, again, to try and push that body part to grow. And that's where it is a useful tool as well if you've got a lacking body part, to be able to then put it on them days to really push. Say, I don't off the top of my head, I can't remember, so I'm sure, say it's like 150, 200 grams of carb post-workout on them days, your body's going to struggle to digest and process and partition them. So having the low rapid in, let's say 3 IUs, 5 IUs, again, you don't need to start on fucking 10 IUs, but having that in there is going to really allow you to utilize all them carbohydrates in the muscle you've trained, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think you've tried the V-Loss protocol, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've done up to 20 IUs pre and 20 IUs post.
And this is the fast-acting Nova.
Fast-acting Nova. And yeah, so it was that for me, I can't do that because the amount of carbohydrates you've got to take on board. So for example, you've got to take on board 200 grams of carbohydrates pre-workout. It absolutely ruins me in the sense of like, I'm fucking knackered. I'm absolutely fucked. It makes me so tired. I'm like, I don't even want to train. So I think I think it will blow you up. The fullness and the pump was crazy. But again, I don't feel like it was growing new muscle. I think it was just a placebo effect of being like, my body weight's going up crazy. My fullness is crazy. My training protocol at the time obviously was giant sets and so on. It was like, I blew up, but it was like superficial. Wasn't true muscle. So I felt like one, you don't have to have great energy in the gym if you're doing a plate aside and doing 40, 50, 700 reps, you know what I mean? For example, the actual pre-exhaustion set for the first bit of back was 20 sets of pull downs, 20 reps of pull downs, 20 reps of rows, back to back. And then it was a minute rest, so 40 reps. And then you got 4 sets of that. It's like you're not moving a lot of weight, but you just fill the body with the muscle full of blood. Your pump is fucking unreal. But I just feel like if I'd have carried that on, I wouldn't have grown any dense tissue. I'd have just been I'd have just dieted.
Like, yeah, when you dieted, it probably would have just fell back off.
Yeah, and I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this out of turn, but me and Jimmy Tonk, obviously, I'm good mates with Jimmy, and he's a great, fucking lovely guy, top guy, fucking great bodybuilder. But I think when I spoke to him about it, because we competed at the Island Show together, and he was fuming that he didn't place as well as he wanted to. He was 280 in the off season, and he dieted down to like 230. And it's like, but in the off season he wasn't fat at all. But I feel like it's a personal opinion, but I feel like the insulin protocol, it gives you a superficial, artificial weight. and you're an artificial fullness that you can't, when you diet down because of the food's going low, you can't keep that, you can't maintain it. So that fucking 60 pound, was it, yeah, a 60 pound drop is fucking nuts. And I know he wasn't doing a crazy amount of cardio. He was peeled, he was shredded, but he wasn't 60 pounds of fat. Do you know what I mean? And I think where people get this wrong with the Milos side of things is because they look at the genetic freaks of Horse HD, Samson, and so on. It's like you can't judge a normal person off them. Samson could do whatever the fuck he wanted to and grow.
Yeah.
You know, all he has to do.
Bro, did you see he was dieting? His diet for a while going into his last shows and that was after he'd done 45 minutes cardio, he'd have 3 eggs and a coffee.
3 eggs.
My kids have 3 eggs each every morning. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't. You put in your sort of, again, the methodologies. We've got loads of methodologies of how to do things. It's like you can't look at the anomalies. And I know Tom's obviously trained and spent a lot of time with Nathan Diasha. We've seen him. He's gone all day without eating, and he just.
No, I've been with Nathan, and this is like, and I remember being with Nathan a while back, and he actually invited me to paint his stairs with him. We were painting his banisters, me and him together walking. And next day I looked at my phone, I was like, I've done this for 5 hours. So I looked and I was like, are you not going to eat? He's like, no, I'll probably eat later. And I think we left, it'd been like 9-10 hours. And he's like, yeah, I'll go and get some food now. And it's like, he was walking around, he was massive still.
Yeah, he's like fucking 60, he doesn't ever.
Yeah. But he just eats whenever. He's like, oh, I'll probably get a Domino's, I don't know. Well, it's not asked.
He came to the
I think
gym.
people like that.
Yeah.
The people like that, the anomalies, the genetic elite can literally do whatever they want. But then when he's actually like fully on it, so that's when he goes to Q8 and whatnot, the physique fucking changes because he's actually on it. It's nuts.
And that's the
I
same
think you can just go days with anything.
But that's the same thing as well, like with Samson, because he's been so on it for the last 4 to 5 years.
Oh yeah.
It's overtook everybody, but they just genetic freaks. So again, to come back to the point of for the normal bodybuilder looking at what Philly did for his arms, what fucking such and such a body did for his back, it's pointless because they don't know and you're never going to be like that because they're just hyper responders. So going back to the Milos protocol, the really high insulin pre and post, it works in a sense of like body weight going up, but your training's shit and the amount of carbohydrates you got to eat just makes you absolutely fucked. So yeah, I couldn't keep it up. I really struggle with that. So that covers, say, insulin as a tool, because everybody will fucking want to be using that. The other thing that leads us on to really is what I personally do is I'll put in metformin before I'll utilize insulin. Before I'll deploy basal insulin to bring blood glucose into a good range, I will put metformin in. So metformin is obviously like a glucose disposal agent. Yeah, but it's obviously pharma grade. It's going to help with inflammation. So it's really good in an off-season setting to deal because you're going to be inflamed, you're training hard, your food's high. So it's really good to have, say, 500 milligrams of metformin pre-bed to allow you to deal with the carbohydrate load. And we've seen it ourselves where we put that in place, haven't we? And it's managed. That's what it's for.
I mean, honestly, like even I know this is about drugs, but even before the drug side, before the metformin, it's make sure you do your fasted cardio and make sure you go for regular walks, maybe after meals.
Oh,
that'll negate needing to use metformin for longer.
If you look at you're a big advocate of stanephrine, is it?
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual data from studies, has not been too scientific, but 10-minute walks post meal or 10 minutes cardio or 10-minute steps actually is more beneficial than metformin.
Twice of effect as it came out than metformin.
Yeah. Metformin. So that splitting up this is where I say to clients, like, I've got you on 10K steps, not because I want you to expend any fucking energy. It's because I want you to be utilizing that time to be able to just get mini little walks in, 10-minute walks for digestion, for blood glucose. So you're definitely right, like, yeah, that's a very good point where utilizing that first protocol is that even, I hate doing the whole no carbs before bed, but even then I might shift carbs a little bit earlier in the day, have a little bit less carbohydrates pre-bed for that reason.
Yeah. So imagine doing the whole, right, you can shift carbs from before pre-bed, You can get up and do fasted cardio. You can do 10-minute walks after training. Then you can add in GDAs. Then you can add in metformin. Then you can add in insulin. That's a fucking big, long off season if you play it right and don't play all your cards at once.
And this is the point that we really should make at the start, is starting off is not throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. It's utilize these tools as we transition through an off season to keep us being able to make progress.
I think it's the same for like a prep. Like you wouldn't jump in a prep and go, let's do an hour's cardio, let's put our calories at this, let's at nothing, let's do 3-hour sessions a day, let's take all these drugs, let's do everything. It's all just think, next.
I think my point of view was always on this is people really they really struggle to see that they're growing. So they can't see that growing. So they're always like, oh fucking hell, I need more and I need to be heavier and I need to be bigger. Whereas you're in prep, it's everything's on a needs analysis, it's on a needs basis. It's like, okay, right, we pulled your calories down, you look a little bit flat, let's bump some orals in there to keep fullness, or so on and so on. For some reason in off season, when people do their own off seasons, like you say, they're looking for that, I need 10 pounds of muscle. And it's because it's harder to grow 10 pounds of muscle than it is to lose 10 pounds of fat. So they then start overthinking it and start overanalyzing and putting too many things in at once. It's 100%.
I think people struggle to see. People really struggle to see that if you've got a cycle set up and you've got nutrition set up and cardio set up, everything you've got set up right now, this one plan that you've got, just do it consistently and you can ride that progress for quite a long fucking time before you need to change anything at all.
Yeah.
Like just the actual time of doing something, or like driving a car. Every single time you try and drive the car, you're going to get better and better at driving it without changing anything. You're going to get better at training. You're going to grow more muscle. You're going to be better at fucking digesting food, better at putting effort into the cardio without changing a single thing. Just continue to do that until you need to.
I think you put. I'm sorry, Ryan, go. I think you put a post on, didn't you, the other day, Kieran, regarding you've not changed anything. You've just upped your carbs recently.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
And within them 12 weeks, I've made progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think from a coach's standpoint, a client is always looking for the change, because it's like then, and I think coaches could come to a point where they make a change to warrant the job, which is it's just a situation, but that's what clients expect. Well, there's no changes. And no change is a fucking good thing because it's working.
100%.
If we're having to change everything every 2 minutes, it's like, fucking hell, we're not responding the way we want to. If you're getting...
I go into a check-in a lot of the times, right, thinking, I hope there's no changes because I know I can ride this longer. Do you know what I mean?
Is it your personal check-in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, when I'm checking in to my coach, most of the time I'm looking for no changes.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, no, I've got more to fucking give here. Let me just keep giving it.
I think with the changes as well for people, it's a novel thing. It's a new, oh God, I'm doing this now. And I think they just like the change. But like you say, do the boring shit over and over and over. And that's what will pay off. The only other thing I'd say I'll touch on is that people probably not aware of is like an ABR, which is obviously to manage the blood pressure side of things. When we are pushing, again, that's another data point that people should be checking in off season. That's the one thing that is going to kill bodybuilders silently. And a lot of people are not checking it, and they're not, even let's say coaches are not checking the blood pressure.
Bro, 15 quid on Amazon, mate. Like 15 quid. Blood pressure monitor.
And that's a really a massive metric for health, overall health, and so on. Is for us as well. Like when we're talking pushing realms of 500 to 750 testosterone, and we're pushing food and we're pushing GH and water retention again. It's like the blood pressure is going to be one of the things that is going to rise. If it doesn't, perfect. But if it does, that's where we'll put in like an ABR to then, because I've had a lot of people saying, "Oh fucking hell, they put me on blood pressure fucking medication," because prevention rather than cure. I'm not looking to go, you know what, fucking hell, let's get you on really high blood pressure and then be like, oh fucking hell, we need to deal with that now. It's something that's like, we're going to preempt and say, we're probably going to get high blood pressure. Let's just try to control that and manage that. Again, this all comes down to managing our body and managing our needs. manage that before we get into serious trouble where we're going to have to pull everything and cut your off-season short.
Yeah, like you said, especially when you're off-season, you're progressively gaining weight. Blood pressure will be on the rise.
Exactly.
Then plus the use of the anabolics. You know what I mean? Then obviously pushing the food. Like you're going to need to control that blood pressure. We can only there's only a certain amount of like health supplements that we can take, which we'll be able to advise and put in clients' plans and give them a code and get them money off for it and all that. But you still need to be checking your blood pressure and maybe use something like the likes of telmisartan or whatever. But that's all just got to be off someone's monitoring. You can't just guess that.
Yeah, and that's where if someone is doing their own off season, what I would say is take your blood pressure and then obviously make the call, or even shoot any of us a DM and just say, what do you think? I get that all the time. Like, what do you think of this? Even down to any decision you're going to make with an off season, just shoot us a fucking DM and we'll just cover it. It doesn't take us long. Or we've got like a whole educational hub which covers everything in like all the nitty gritty. So then you get making informed decisions rather than just the guy who's selling gear in the gym's telling you, take fucking formula this and take formula that because he's selling it. It's like everything has its place. The other thing that I probably will touch on is, you've touched on it actually, when to get blood work in a cycle or in an off season. When would you get it?
Always before you start a cycle. Always when you finish a cycle. But in all honesty, look, health is wealth in it. So at least every 3 months, I'd be saying. Like
how I do it is, I think to myself, okay, what's going to dictate how long we can push this cycle is our blood work. So if we put a 20-week map of a push-up phase, right? People are, oh, well, you do a 12-week cycle. Well, no, let's do 8 to 10 weeks, get blood work, and that is going to decide where we're at, and what we can do. If at that point our blood work is so skewed that we're like, fuck's sake, we're going to have to come off, that's the end of our cycle. But if our blood work's in a decent normal range for where we're meant to be in that cycle, well, then we can eke out. We can eke out another fucking maybe 8 to 10 weeks or 6 weeks, get blood work again, and then it allows us then to be able to define how long our cycle can be. And again, if we do this properly, in a sense of the right amount of drugs and progress this over time, that's one of the things as well, is, as we said, progressing the drugs over time to keep the progress going. You can run a 20-week cycle with decent blood work, and that's going to allow you to keep progressing over time rather than just be.
I think again, with the more time, the more you get it, obviously you're going to have your set out of your cycle and everything like that. The more you get it, the more data you've got, and the next time you come to do a cycle, you'll know roughly how long you can run that cycle for again before you're going to have to either pull your off season or anything. You just get, so the more times you can get your blood work done, the more data you're going to collect, the more beneficial it's going to be going forward long term.
The other side as well is, what I'll do is I'll be 4 weeks into a cycle and I'll literally just run a test of like a testosterone test just to see if my gear is real.
Yeah,
just to make sure it's real, mate. Yeah.
That's another thing. Like we said at the start, like a 30 quid test. If I'm taking fucking 600 milligrams of test and my test is at 40, I'm like, this is fucking underdosed to shit. You know what I mean? So I think that pretty much covers how to structure a perfect off season.
That's why we're all fucking massive.
That is why we've all got fat fucking heads. Just loads of drugs, really. Little bit of a recap on us. So, Tom, where you at in obviously your off season? How are you getting on?
Now we're 8 weeks up, aren't we? 8 weeks. I think we're around 18 to 20 pound now, which I'm obviously very happy with. Competition wise,
conditions holding really well, isn't it?
What's that? Sorry.
Well, conditions holding really well at 20.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so very happy with condition. Obviously, checking in with yourself once a week. Very happy with how everything's going, and I think we begin the push tomorrow.
Yeah.
So rebound phase. We got our blood work done, didn't we? Everything's bob on. And now tomorrow begins official grow season.
Oh shit! Yeah, how are you getting on, Keith?
Don't watch this phase. Don't watch this phase. Watch this phase.
Yeah.
I've had my rebound and all that, and had my clear out. Got some bloods. Everything was great. I'm about 4 weeks into a cycle. purposefully threw my back out so I could get my bum fingered at the hospital.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that again.
How do you mentally manage stuff like that, Key?
What, getting my ass fingered?
No, I mean, like, yeah. This is injury or...
Breathe.
Yeah.
Injury, honestly, mate, you know me. My outlook's fucking... there's always something positive. When I was sat there in the hospital, all I could do was look around thinking, fucking hell, there's some unfortunate fuckers in here. I'm glad I'm not in that position. And I thought, like, if they said to me, you fucked, you can't bodybuild again, I'd be like, okay, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? I always see the positive. I'd still, if I wasn't able to bodybuild myself, I've still got all this knowledge for the past like 15 years. I'd still be helping everyone else. I'd just be helping even more people.
Yeah.
And I think everyone deals with shit like that in their own way. But look, mate, it's easy for me. I've got a family. I'm busy. I've got stuff to do. I'm not selfishly in this for myself. Do you know what I mean? So, I can't say it isn't a fucking ball ache and it doesn't bother me, but just got to get on with it. There's worse things in life.
Yeah, that was just, I've been the same. Like, I've been ill. I know it's only fucking cold, but I've been like, I'd flew for a week, and I'm like, right, let's start manning the fuck up. Spoke to Martin. I was like, bro, I bought a pair of fucking heels because I'm practically fucking bikini girl right now. I said that's just for the weekend. So he's set my calories out. What we've done is he's basically just give me 4 meals, but made them more calorically dense. So I'll have like 4 meals in an intra, and just to make sure that I'm like not eating as frequently and just making sure that them meals. So say, for example, my last meal is like I know you like tacos, basically a tacos. It's like tortilla wraps, taco beans, fucking cheese, just making sure that we can get 5,000 calories in without really struggling with it, because my appetite's on its heart.
Thinking food all the time.
And just because, and down to even with work and stuff, I've said to him, like, Martin understands, because he's a high level coach himself and really busy. He's got a team of people as well. And we had the discussion yesterday because he was meant to be making a comeback. I was like, are you going to make it? He said, I physically can't, bro. Like, I just can't. And he was like, we have to get a balance for you where you can still do the work that you need to do and still be a pro bodybuilder. You've got to be able to, we have to work around that now. So then, he structured it in a way where we're just going to try, realistically, I need to be putting on, in the next 20 weeks, I need to be putting on 20, 25 pounds.
It's difficult, but like, fuck being average, in it. That's not what we came here for.
Like, this is the thing as well. It's you've got issues or problems or like you said, like with your back or so on, and then we're like, right, well, let's devise a plan. Let's not sit there and wallow and be fucking, I've got this to do and that's. It's like, right, how can we be efficient and how can we make a plan to make sure that we still get to our end goal and still make sure we achieve what we need to do. So
obviously, like it's Carissa, she's a fucking saint. So she made sure that she pre-planned for me yesterday that I was going to be in the hospital for a stupid amount of time. So I had my food. She sorted all my food for me. Today I thought I'm going to be sensible and actually not go to the gym. I know I could probably get in some sort of machine and do something, but I think I genuinely need to rest this time. But I still ate all my meals that I'm supposed to eat.
Yeah.
But that doesn't go out the window. As soon as someone injures themselves, the worst thing you can do is feel sorry for yourself, eat pizza and burgers and shit, and, wallow in your own fucking shit and then go, take 10 steps back. Undoubtedly, you've got to take 2 steps back, but that's so you can, ultimately, you'll be able to take 3 fucking forward.
I always say control what you can control. Like, you can't control, you can't train because you're back and that's out of your control, but you can still control your eating. You can still control your diet. So if you're able to control that, it's only going to lead to good things, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right. Well, I think that's actually a fucking half decent episode, which is rare for us because we've recorded a few and they've been absolutely dog shit. I think that the introduction
is just fucking you and me, Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Tom, I think bringing Tom in is helped us because it's just give us that trying to show off and dick measure.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure as always. We are heading into the fucking new year. We're staying accountable and we are going to keep this up. And our goal for Purpose Driven is to provide as much fucking value to everybody as we possibly can. And we need to, and the only way we can hit as many people as we need to do is this. And this is where we need to keep this up and have that impact.
So comment below what shit you want to see. Yeah. Unless it's Ryan naked, there'll be a different link for that.
Yeah.
I want to see Kieran's next hospital appointment.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think,
you
I
can.
think okay, right. Comment, Kieran got fingered. And then
Yeah.
you've got a comment at the bottom, and we'll make sure we keep this up. But no, mate, thanks, lads. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Fucking
Been lovely.
Pleasure.
as always. Thanks, guys.
Peace. Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.